taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get light to white?
Well, but he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his limit is a Farrakhan purpose. You have to go to him and ask him that.
Peace and light, family line. Peace and light, peace and light, peace and light. It is I, M.O.I. in the building. Listen, man. Scrap in for this live. We about to go in on some history. My favorite subject. Let's see here. We're gonna keep the house rules and decorum as follow. Shout out to first responders. Peace, everyone. Peace. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love. Shouts out to all the first responders, man. Listen, so y'all know what it is. Get your pen and your pad together. Let's take some notes. This is not for entertainment. It's for educational purposes only. So I need my pen and pad gang to tap in. Pen and paper gang, pen and pad gang. The note takers, the disciples. I want disciples to tap in real quick. Get your pen and your pad, take notes. Y'all ready? All right. Everybody focus up. So listen, time period we're talking about, as in the title, the transatlantic slave trade, Moorish masters. That sounds like a lot to deal with. And it is, because I want to keep pushing this lesson until I think it connect. I don't think this lesson really connect with a lot of people. And understanding. And this brother here on YouTube, what's his name? Caramel. This brother here dodged the hijack, brother. But the brother did some real real nice lectures on his YouTube. I am an admirer of his work. I think it's intriguing. And I watch, take notes, and I go do a deeper dive on it. And I also try to connect the dots while I'm doing a deeper dive, but that makes sense, right? So it's something that I talked about before. And I think my wager is still out there. I made a wager to anybody. If anybody could prove numerically how many Africans were shipped to North America during the supposed transatlantic slave trade. I say supposed because they'll teach you about the transatlantic slave trade as it relates from people coming from Africa, or being brought from Africa to the Americas. And then they remix 1619 with the Pilgrims. And then they give you these titles of statuses of Negro, Black, colored, African American. And the history says something different. The evidence points to something different. So that's what we're going to talk about. A little bit something different. A lot of this stuff you guys are already familiar with, which is great. So I don't have to go into any type of deep detail. You guys already know where we're coming from. This particular frame I got in front of you is basically explaining the settlement of North America in the 1500s, which makes sense because 1492, 1493, 1489, into Catarracavina, the what would it be? It would be the westward expansion, the first westward expansion of what would later become the European Empire. At this point, there's just broken fragments of kingdoms. That's why you would see Ferdinand and Queen Isabella at the helm of the expulsion of Sephardic Jews, Moorish individuals being banished from that particular realm or kingdom. And this is an old royal religious war, what later became religious. This is a really old war, though, like super old war. And I think that the disservice they do our people in America is they teach us the last part of the story. They give us the last part of the story. So let's talk about the beginning of the story. Well, not the very beginning, but somewhere in the beginning of the story where the individuals would come to the Americas. And it says that this is from somebody's account. They were of dark color, not much unlike the Ethiopians, and hair black and thick and not very long, which they tied back together on their head in shape of a little tail, a ponytail. As for the symmetry of the man, they were well proportioned, of medium stature, and rather exceeded us. This is the Spaniards talking. I say Spaniards, talking about the Moorish Spaniards, not just follow me. In the breast, they were broad, their arms well built, and their legs and other parts of their body well put together. There is nothing else except that they were inclined somewhat to broadness in the face, but not all. For in Moor we saw the face clear cut, the eyes black and large, the glance intense and quick. Which a young man, go to the next one. It says, which a young man learned that of his people that they are thus of dark color like the others, the flesh more lustrum, medium stature, face more clear cut, more delected body of their body and other members, less strength and even intelligence. So he's kind of describing what these Americans look like. This is the Spaniards who are coming into the Americas for the first time, 1524, 1516, which again makes sense. I'm going to show you why in a second. I'm going to show you why that makes sense. Let's go to 1489. I'm going to pull it up in front of you. There we go. And again, my point is how this timeline makes sense dealing with the Spaniards. So if you just know what's happening, Everybody, welcome. Appreciate y'all tapping in with me. This is M.O.I. You definitely know this is not going to be for entertainment. This is educational purposes only. Get your pen and pad. Let's learn some information. This is class. You know how you in class. So feel free to ask questions. I said, why you got to go live when I got to be at my slave job? Definitely. Hey, listen, definitely tap back in a little bit later and catch this because it's going to be good. We only about 9 minutes in, you know, we're about to go in. So let's go to the 1489 papal bull issued by Pope Innocent the Eighth. We'll take a quick snap at who Pope Innocent the Eighth was. He was born in 1432 to 1492. He was the head of the Catholic Church and ruler of the Papal State. He was a pope from August in 1484 to his death in 1492. Son of the Viceroy of Naples, Cybo, I presume, spent his last years at Neapolitan court. He became the priest to reunite the Cardinal. What is this right here? Italian Roman Catholic Cardinal, half brother of Pope Nicholas V. Interesting. But that's not why we're here. Pope Innocent VIII, let's find his connection to the expulsion of the Moors out of Spain. It says right here, after Innocent Polyking, I guess trying to say politics and kings at the same time, by Della Rovere, Cybo was elected to Pope in 1484. So he got elected to Pope in 1484. King Ferdinand I of Naples had supported his competitor, The following year, Pope Innocent supported the barons and failed to revolt. So let's set the scene for a second. So this is 1484. We're in Italy. We're in what the Vatican would be today, right? 1489, Pope Innocent. Watch how far this was from the Protestant movement. When was the protest movement? Okay. When was the Protestant movement? 1517. Watch how we connect the dots. This is religious. This is a religious war. It turns religious war, but it's a ancient war, bloodline and kingdoms. The protest Reformation is generally considered to have begun in 1517 with Martin Luther's publication of the 95 Reform Theses, it's supposed to say, while the movement built upon early criticism of the Catholic Church, Luther's work, particularly the rapid spread of the 95 Theses of Reformation, they were called the 95 Reform Theses, thanks to the printing press, is seen as pivotal movement marking the start of the Reformation. The Reformation continued for several decades with key events like the Peace of Augsburg in 1555, the Treaty of Westphalia 1648, marking significant points in its development. So the Protestant movement or protest movement, Reformation 1517. Now, write that down, please. 1517. Let's go back to 1489. It's a couple years prior. I'm going to show you the trajectory of these religious wars. 1489. Let's go to Spain. Papal Bull, 1489. Oh, shit. Spain. Sorry. Here we go. The 1489 Pope Innocent VIII issued a papal bull that confirmed the previous bull, Alterius Regis, related to the territorial claim between Portugal and Spain. The bull, Alterius Regis, confirmed the treaty of. These are just treaty after treaties, man. It's crazy. Let's look this up real quick because now I'm curious what this is. 1479 between Castile and Portugal, the House of Castile. The House of Castile is the opposite of the House of Aragon. I'll show you in a second. It was a treaty between Castile and Portugal and settled a long-standing conflict and defeated their respective spheres in the influence of the Atlantic. So 1479, 1489, and then went to the 1500s, right? I'm not going to talk to you about anything past 1619. So your piece of paper, write down 1400 on the right side, a T-chart. We're going to do a T-chart. Y'all ready? Piece of paper, T-chart. On the left side of the T-chart, put 1400. The right side of the T-chart, put 1619. And everything we're going to talk about from 1400, the latter 1400 to 1500, into the 1600s, I'm going to tell you what side of the T-chart to put it on. Right? Now, I'm doing the same thing, guys. This is how you take notes. How I'll take notes anyway. We're going to create another T-chart. You can hear my papers ruffling in the background, so you know I'm really doing this shit, right? Make another T-chart. Let's see. On the left side, write the word African / Moor. On the right side, you're going to write native / Yeah, just write native. There's no other word I want to put on there. So on the left side, put African / Moor. On the right side, just put native. You should have two T-charts. You're going to have a timeline T-chart, and then we're going to go talk about some people in a second. 1479, put that right under your 1400 T-chart. 1479. This is a treaty between the House of Castile and Portugal that settled a long-standing conflict. Now, what I was going to tell you earlier is the House of Castile and the House of Aragon. Let me show you these two real quick before we go any further. Because you start seeing Castile. I just told you earlier, this is old kingdoms. Listen to what I tell y'all. This is old kingdoms, old bloodlines and dynasties. Old. This ain't even the oldest one. Like we could talk about some that go past 1400s, but we'll stay right here though. They were the legitimate candidate line of the House of Burgundy. That's the House of Burgundy. A candidate branch of the House of Ivory, descendants from Raymond the Burgundy. Raymond married Ursula, and the eldest legitimate daughter of Alfonso VI of Leon and Castile of the House of Jimenez. That is crazy. And then it keeps going all the way back. Anyway, House of Castile to power. They came to power in 1369. As a result, the House of Tresmara over his half-brother Peter I in 1351 to 1369 in what was called the Castilian War. The Castilian Civil War was a war of succession over the crown of Castile that lasted from 1351 to 1369. The conflict started after King Alfonso IX of Castile in March 1350. It became part of a larger conflict raging between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France. Good to know, right? Now, after succession crisis introduced the neighboring crown of Aragon by the death of Martin of Aragon. Martin the Humane was also called the Elder. The ecclesiastic was king of Aragon, Valencia, Sardinia, Corsica, Corsa, and the Count of Barcelona from 1396, and the King of Sicily from 1409. This is Martin of Aragon. Without legitimate heirs, 1412 Compromise of Caspi installed a member of the House of Trastamara, if I'm saying that right, Trastamara, Ferdinand of Antiquity. Who are these people? Let's go look. I'm intrigued. Ferdinand I. There we go. Also, Justinus, the King of Aragon. He was the first Castilian ruler of the Crown of Aragon. Crown of Aragon was a composite monarchy ruled by one king, originated by the dynastic union of the Kingdom of Aragon and the County of Barcelona, and ended as a consequence of a war of Spanish succession at the height of its power in the 14th and 15th century. All right. House of Aragon, House of Castile. Let's go back to the Pope, Papal Bull. Which Papal Bull was issued in the 1490s? Indicaterra Cavina, because I can never say it on here. Look it up. So write this down. 1490s. Put it under your 1400 column. The last number you should have is 1479. 1479. Now we're going to go to 1490. Was the Indicaterra issued by Pope Alexander VI on May 4th, 1493. It was a significant document, the doctrine of discovery, granting Spain exclusive rights to lands discovered by Columbus west of a specific line. Give you guys time to take that in. As you can see, a mandate went out. Claiming lands west of Spain and claiming lands west of Portugal. Because this was a religious war, I told you about earlier. This religious entity, such as the Pope, could now put out edicts. They call them edicts or papal bulls, or an announcement. The email now declaring certain parts of the world under Spanish authority. And the joining of the two houses that gave rise to this, King Ferdinand and Isabella, was King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile. I just briefly went over the House of Aragon and the House of Castile at its early rises in the 1300s. This is now 1490. And the two are going to join forces. Royal couple who, through their marriage and joint rule, unified Spain and laid the foundation for their nation's growth as a major European power. They are best known for their sponsorship of Christopher Columbus' voyage to the Americas and their promotion of Catholicism, which led the Spanish Inquisition and expulsion of the Sephardic Moorish Jews and the Moors from Spain. They say Muslims. And the reason I'm emphasizing Sephardic Jews and Muslims, because Moors were both. It was when the invasion happened of Spain, is when those Moors converted to Christianity, and they became known Moriscos. So Moriscos, Sephardic Jews, Moors who practiced Islam, or I guess it was called Mohammedan or Islam at its earliest. But anyway, so when you see that the expulsion of both these Jews and Muslims happened from Spain, let's find out where they went to. I think I got to go to my switch over to my TikTok. because a lot of this information I've already, I think, covered quite a bit over my TikTok. If you haven't already, give me a follow on TikTok. The Minister of Information. It's a couple other people over there with that title. But anyway, I think we already looked at it right here. Here it is right here.
While there is no evidence of a large-scale Moorish settlement in the early American colonies, historical records indicate that some Muslims, often referred to as Moors due to their North African and Arab heritage, did arrive in the Americas through the slave trade. Some historical accounts hold that Sir Francis Drake freed Moorish slaves from the Spanish and the Caribbean and took them to settle the early colonies of the Carolinas. A few historical accounts mention instances of Moorish slaves being present in early colonial settlements, including the Carolinas. Most Muslims who came to the Americas during the colonial period were brought as enslaved Africans, many of whom maintained their Islamic beliefs despite forced conversion attempts. Moorish slaves from the Spanish settlements in the Caribbean were taken to settle the early colonies of the Carolinas. The enslaved Africans revolted and vanished within weeks. The revolt was the first known instance of enslaved Africans.
Make sure you guys can hear this. You guys can hear the volume on the video. If you can hear the video, press 111 in the comments. Give me a quick 111 check in if you can hear the video. If you can't hear the video, let me know. Give me a 111 in the comments if you can hear the video. Hopefully everybody can hear the video just fine. Hopefully. All right, cool. We can hear it. We got audio. Great. I'm going to continue.
Africans rebelling in the Americas.
So this was the expulsion of the Moors or Muslims and Jews we just saw earlier that happened under this Intica Cavina. And some other stuff happened prior to that too. We can deal with it as well. But now what is demonstrating is the fact that those individuals who were exposed or sent away from Spain, they came to the Americas, North and Central and South Americas. And they came to the Americas by way of choice earlier on, and then by force. They were forced out of Spain. Some remained there. Not everybody left. Some remained there. And in this particular one, Sir Francis Drake freed more slaves from Spanish. Watch this. Yeah. Let me pull this up real quick. Give me a second. Sir Francis Drake had rescued Moorish slaves from the Caribbean islands. Let me put it up real quick. Sir Francis Drake rescued Moorish slaves from the Caribbean islands. So the claim that Sir Francis Drake rescued more slaves from the Caribbean islands is significantly oversimplification of his actions and misrepresentation of his role in the slave trade. While Drake's voyage did involve the taking of enslaved people, especially in his early years with John Hawkins. So under 1400s, write down the name Sir Francis Drake and write down the name John Hawkins, please. I'm gonna show you who John Hawkins was. He was a real. I don't know. I'll let you judge. But John Hawkins was a privateer, and then we could talk about pirates and treasure. And I'm gonna ask you, where did you get the treasure from? Because no treasure came out of Europe. where all that treasure and rubies and pearls and gold come from. So anyway, you got John Hawkins and you got Sir Francis Drake. It goes on to say that John Hawkins, his later action, particularly during the circumnavigation, were more about raiding and plundering. Sounds like pirates. Spanish settlements. He did not actively engage in rescuing enslaved individuals from the Caribbeans. Early involvement in the slave trade. Remember, we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade, Moorish masters. Transatlantic slave trade, Moorish masters. At this point, when I mentioned Spain, imagine Spain is full of dark-skinned people in this time period. Imagine Spain looks like this. Hold on. Imagine Spain looked like this right here, because this is how it looked. This is how Spain looked. This is how Spain looked when Columbus came over here. These were Sephardic, Yehudis, and Muslims. The invading dynasties, Aragon and Castile, those invading dynasties, along with help from the Anglicans and the Saxons, to reestablish the Christian kingdom under Christendom. And that was what you'll see the Crusades being about. These same men right here who use sabotars. That's a certain kind of sword. They use sabotars. They didn't use the straight swords like the Europeans. The same people. So just imagine Spain looking like this. It's a book called Moorish Spain. Every time I say Spain, going forward, this is all you're going to see in your head. I'm going to give you a second to soak it in. When I mention Spain, this is all you're going to see in your mind. When I say the Spaniards came over here, this is who you're going to see right here, okay? Nobody else in your mind. Do not use your imagination to imagine no other color people or looking people than these people right here. When I mention Spain or Spaniards, or Spain or Spaniard at this particular time period I'm talking about. We can talk about the Ladinos later. But for right now, only imagine these people. Now imagine these people interacting with the Caribs and the indigenous Americans of the eastern seaboard of America. Imagine these people interacting with those people. Because, see, our mind won't allow us to fathom the entire planet look like this. And these pale-skinned people just came outside yesterday, and they're reselling you a narrative that's ridiculous. But to you, it makes the most sense because how they structured the maps, how they structured the disciplines of history and science and archaeology, paleontology, all the other ologies, Egyptianology. Only imagine these people in your mind going forward as I talk about Spain and Spaniards. So we just talked about, let's go back to the Papal Bull real quick, and then we'll go back to John Hawkins. I'm going to show you some other infamous navigators that helped plunder the Americas. And then we'll talk about the real slave trade, both American slave trades, and then we'll wrap it up, okay? So maybe like 4 more points, and then we'll wrap it up. It's going to be quick. The Papal Bull issued in 1490s was the Indica Terra, issued by Pope Alexander VI, May 4th, 1493. It was a significant document. It's called the Doctrine of Discovery. So under your 1400 colony T-chart, put Doctrine of Discovery. Under your African in your native T-chart, under the word African / Moor, write 1493. Also write Indica Terra. That's the name of the Papal Bull, or it's called the Doctrine of Discovery. Either way, write that down too. And see, what I'm teaching you to do is not just remember. We're not just remembering stuff. We're learning stuff. So when you have conversations with people in the conscious community, you can sound intelligent. You can put the time, 1490. What? Indica Terra Convena. Who? Pope Alexander VI. What? Papal Bull, Indica Terra. When? 1490. Who? Pope Alexander VI. We're building muscle memory on history. The bull granted Spanish monarchs Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile the right. Who gave them the right? Write that question down for me. Who gave them the right to claim the land? Who gave them the right to claim the land? And the who came under religious observation by saying their deity, their God, our God. The same thing they said during the 1849 gold rush. The West was called the Western expansion of America, which is called Manifest Destiny. It was their destiny to discover and take over and conquer in the name of their God. And this is why when they brought their God into Spain, those Muslim Moors and Sephardic Jews had to get down or lay down. Either you convert or you die. You worship our God now. The Christian God. Christendom came in and yoked. Hey, listen, you do we say or off with your head. Okay. The context of the bull was issued in response to the Spanish monarch's claim to the lands discovered by Columbus. It became a crucial legal precedent for the European colony claim in the treatment of indigenous populations in America, justifying their conquest and enslavement. The Pope asserts rights to colonize, convert, and enslave. This is called the Doctrine of Discovery. Columbus sails the ocean blue in 1492, 1493. The document to claim the land had hit the streets. Everybody and a mama was trying to get over here to the Americas. Let's go back to John Hawkins. John Hawkins was the first contractor. It says, while the statement of John Hawkins was the first contractor is not entirely true, it does reflect the key role he played in early development of transatlantic slave trade. John Hawkins is widely recognized as the first English merchant to profit from the triangular trade, pioneering what would later become the Atlantic triangular trade. This is the history. Now, these are the Europeans about to get involved now. This is Europe about to get involved. Spain and Portugal already set the tone. There were likely other individuals involved in the slave trade before Hawkins, especially the Portuguese and the Spanish. Acknowledging the Portuguese and the Spanish was doing this way before Hawkins came along. However, Hawkins was a key figure in establishing the system for English merchants, mercantilism. Hawkins led the expedition that traded English goods for enslaved Africans in Africa, transported them across the Atlantic to the Americas, and then traded them for goods like sugar, hide, and were ultimately brought back to England. This system became the model for the later transatlantic slave trade. I have a question. Where did John Hawkins even get the Africans from? Write this name down. How many Africans did Queen Nzinga ship? This is Queen Nzinga. Write her down, please. Write her down under the same column. And write her down under African too. Write her name down under the African T chart. On the right side of your T chart. Queen Nzinga forces during her reign captured hundreds of thousands of people and sold nearly 250,000 slaves to the Portuguese. So the Portuguese wasn't capturing Negroes from the Ivory Coast, from Africa. They were just pulling up. And Queen Nzinga was selling them. She was making the paper. Now they went and traded for goods and services. The Portuguese wasn't trading for money. They were trading for goods. They said that she sold them, exchange of cash. Might have been goods and services too. Might have been guns or weapons. I don't know. These individuals were either forced into labor, were either forced to labor, in Portuguese Angola, or were transported across the Atlantic as part of the transatlantic slave trade. Additional sources indicate that between 1575 and 1590, write down 1575 and 1590 under your 1600 T-chart column on the right-hand side. Write down 1575 and 1590, please. Between 1575 and 1590, at least 50,000 Mandambu people were exported to Brazil due to the wars and slave trading operations in Congo. Crazy work. Queen Nzinga. So my point to this was this is how the Portuguese and the Spaniards were getting those bodies out of Africa. And these bodies went to South America, not to North America. Because they just told you the Portuguese and the Spaniards been doing this. So let's go look back in history, find out how long they've been doing it. Let's get rid of this right here. Let's find out how long these Spaniards really been doing it. I'm going to show you who these Spaniards are. Because I just told you earlier, keep those darker people in your brain when we're talking about Spaniards in this time period. Because you can't sit here and think in your brain that the Moors ruled Europe from the 700s to the 1400s. And all of a sudden, in 1492, there's no more of these dark-skinned Moors in that same space that's been there for 700 years. Oh, God, thank God for 7-11. That's when the Moors came in and revamped Spain and Portugal, that Iberian Peninsula area, Northern Africa. They ruled it, introducing aqueducts, spas, mathematics, so on and so forth. Okay? So why is it that you would believe that they were there in that time period, but shortly thereafter, they weren't there anymore? They were still there. So the people I'm about to talk about right now, that's how they looked. They met some more darker people over here that we read earlier who were unliking to Ethiopians, they say, once they got over here. San Miguel de Guadalupe. Let's get into this real quick. I talked about this before. This was founded in 1526. So under your 1600 column, put down the year 1526. Right out beside it, put Spanish colony. Lucas Vasquez. It was established somewhere on the coast of the present-day Georgetown, South Carolina. But the exact location has been subject to a long-running scholarship dispute. It was the first temporary successful dodge to hijack European settlement. It's the Spaniards. It's not Europeans. It's the Spaniards. See? Spanish Empire. The Spanish Empire. Sometimes it's referred to as the Hispanic monarch or the Catholic monarch. I told you this was church, religious conquest. Let's read on about Guadalupe because it's something I want you guys to see real quick. And this is why I came up with the whole enough goals to say that only about 100 Africans were Moors were brought over here. Here we go. 1523. It says a boy obtained a royal patent from Charles V and the Council of Indies, allowing him to establish a settlement on the eastern seaboard and conduct trade with the local natives. Now, Charles V, you remember him? Maybe you don't remember Charles V. All right. Remember the three kings who sets up North America? James, which is 1600, Charles, right? And then George. So Charles V. Anyway, Charles V got permission to come over here and settle and conduct trade with the local natives. He would be governor for life, and the title of whatever that is, means mayor or high sheriff, would be held by him and his heirs forever. How long is forever? As required by his contract, this is all contractual. John Hawkins was a contractor as well. This is all contract work. He hired this person right here to lead an exploration voyage consisting of 2 caravans of about 60 crew members. They set sail, write this down, they set sail April 1525 with instructions to explore 200 leagues or 640 nautical miles of coastline, record the necessary bearing and surroundings, erect stone markers bearings, and the name of Charles V, and obtain Indians who might serve as guides and interpreters for future voyages. They made their first landfall May 3rd, 1525, likely at the Savannah River. From there, they continued north, reaching Wyndham Bay, which is the site of their original landing in 1521. They came here in 1521. And Wyndham Bay. Spaniards been here. I'm going to show you which one's been here. But he observed the coast, beyond Wyndham Bay, was most likely sand dunes and pine scrubs. The expedition returned home in 1525. Now, let's get some numbers on these people real quick. Oh, what happened? Sorry, y'all. Hold on. There we go. The first African slaves to be brought to the continent of the United States were brought by the Spanish in 1526 as a part of the first attempt at European settlement in what now is the continent of the United States. They keep throwing the word European in there in 1526. This says, what happened to San Miguel de Guadalupe? They quickly found the area unsuitable for settlement and relocated to the south. possibly at Sepulveda Sound in Georgia, where the colony lasted just 2 months before it was overwhelmed by disease, hunger, and slave uprising, and a hostile Native American population. Wow. This is in Georgia. All right. How many Africans were brought to Hampton, Virginia? 1619. Now we can go under our 1600 column. We saw the first actual enslavement happened in 1521 by the Spaniards. Now let's go to 1619. Let's go to more familiar territory, the East Coast of America, the northeast coast, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Boston. 1619, 20 to 30 enslaved Africans arrived at Port Comfort in Hampton, Virginia, aboard the ship the White Lion. These Africans were stolen from where? Come on, look, right here. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. They were stolen from where? They got stolen from Spanish slave ships. Y'all see that? They got stolen from Spanish slave ships by English privateers like John Hawkins, and then sold for food and supplies in Virginia to the colonists. They're trying to survive, not make a dollar. This is a commodity. Other English ship, the Treasurer, arrived a few days later with 2 to 3 more enslaved Africans. These were the first Africans to arrive in the mainland English America, not Spanish America. Spanish America only brought 100. So by my count, 100, let's give him 140. Let's highball it. Only about 140 Africans were brought into North America. No more were brought here to North America. Spanish slaves. And we already established, we're talking about Spanish. We're talking about who? The darker people in Spain. This is still early for Spain. Let's try this. Let's try to find some captains and owners of these ships that they so often talk about. The Nino brothers was a family of sailors and conquistadors. You know about the conquistadors, right? Conquistadors are bad people. They talk about how they participated actively in Columbus' first voyage. Columbus' first voyage, by way of these guys right here, these Moorish brothers, sets up the stage for what later will become the most horrific, one of the most horrific events in human history, which was the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade. They show you the latter part of the Atlantic slave trade. Then they remix photographs from the 1800s in America to make you think it was all one big time period. Not true. Let's look up the Nino brothers real quick. It was Francisco, Juan, and Pedro. Pedro, he was a Spanish navigator. He piloted the Santa Maria. There it is. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. This is the ship that he navigated right here during Columbus' first voyage. This is supposedly the statue of Pedro Alonso Nino, supposedly. Let's read right here. Let's go back up. Sorry, y'all. He explored the west coast of Africa in his early years and many other places. Nino guided Columbus and navigated the Atlantic Ocean, and he piloted the Santa Maria during Columbus' expedition of 1492. And he accompanied him during his third voyage and saw the discovery of Trinidad and the mouth of Ontario River. After returning to Spain, Nino made preparations to explore the Indies independently, looking for gold and pearls. Empowered by the Council of Castile to seek out new countries, avoiding those already found by Columbus, he committed to give 20% of his profits to the Spanish crown. I want to see what Pedro look like for real, because I think they're playing with us. I think they're playing with us about how he looked. So now I want to know for real. Hold on. A whole article just came up. Let me get this article up for y'all real quick. Dodge the hijack, man. I love when you say that, because it do be a hijack. Here you go. I was telling y'all earlier the picture I was showing you of the Moors, of what Spain looked like when Spain looked like a black Spain. That keep that same image in mind. Keep that same image in mind, because Spain during that time frame was black. I mean, it's what it is. You know? The Black Nino brothers. The Nino brothers is coming from newsletter bushymad.org UK. It's a UK website. The Black Nino brothers were a family of sailors of African descent, Moors. Dodge the hijack. Anytime they say African descent dealing with darker people in Spain in the 1400s, 1500s, it's talking about the Moors we just looked at. Okay. See if we can get into the article real quick. They were the sons of a captured African sailor named Nino. Nino was from Alminia and Ghana, West Africa, who were the first Africans to trade with Spain and Portugal. So this family has a long history of sailing, merchants, a long history with Spain and Portugal. The brothers, Pedro, Francisco, Juan, and Bartholomew, I'm fucking these names up, were already sailors with prestige and experience in the Atlantic journey before joining Columbus' voyage. Pedro, one of the famous among the crew, was the pilot of the Santa Maria, the largest of the three ships used by Columbus. His brother Juan was the master of the Nina, and Francisco believed to have been a sailor of the La Nina. Wow. The Nino brothers also took part in Columbus' second and third voyage between 1499 and 1501. They traveled on their own account. They followed the routes of Columbus' third voyage to the Gulf of Paria of South America, mainland, and what is now Venezuela. There you have it. There you have it. Whew. Moorish traders. I mean trader, however you want to call them, traders. Trading the race traders, or just trading people. Just traders. It says in the second paragraph, history has been written to assume that all passengers of the 3 legendary ships were all of European descent, Jewish, Italian, Spanish, etc. But you're sadly mistaken. A Moor, who was conveniently left out of the story, was the navigator and pilot of one of Columbus' ships during the infamous and first third voyage to the New World. His name was Pedro Alonso Nino. I would like to add that the word Moor in those days was a name interchangeable with the term of African origin. So Moor may have not meant that Pedro was a Muslim, but the Moor was the Moor who conquered Europe. Pedro Alonso Nino was born in Spain, but of African heritage. His nickname was El Negro. His descent was either Ethiopian or the region of West Africa. We know it was Ghana now. He grew up and lived in the region of Al-Andalus, Spain, the mariner hub located south of Spain, only about 2 hours from Morocco in Africa. Little is known about his family, but I found, this is a guy doing his own research. We just read more about the whole thing that he's talking about right now. But he's basically laying the same claim out of really who the Nino brothers were, the merchants who navigated over here to Columbus. Now, why is that even important, you may ask? Because I can go and show you how other Black Europeans also had a hand at slavers long before plantations were thought of in the Americas. Let's see. Who founded the African Slave Trade Company? I think that'd be right. There we go. The Royal African Company, a significant player in the transatlantic slave trade, was founded in 1660 by King Charles II and his brother, the Duke of York, later King James. The company was initially chartered as a company of royal adventure trading to Africa and later gained monopoly on the English trade with Africa in 1672. I think we already seen the logo, but let's just take a look at it again in case you missed the logo. There's the logo for the Royal African Slave Trading Company. Trading bodies out of Africa. See? Just trading them. For what? Tobacco? Sugar? Doesn't matter. This is not North America. My whole point is to show you this is not North America. This is the 1600s. How many Africans were traded to the Americas? Approximately 12.5 million were taken from Africa and transported to the Americas. Between 1525 and 1867, with 10 million surviving on the voyage. Of those who survived, around 388,000 arrived in North America directly, with the additional estimate of 60,000 to 70,000 landing in the United States after first arriving in the Caribbean. That becomes important because they're intermixed with islanders coming to the Americas. This says, of those survived, around 388,000 Africans. So I may be correcting myself because I only said 100 came to North America, but we're reading here 388,000 arrived in North America. I stand corrected. Watch these numbers. 388,000. Somebody write that down. In fact, everybody write it down. And write down 388,000 on your T chart under African. Write down 388,000 African/Moor T chart. On your right side of your T chart, you're going to write this number down. How many Native Americans were slave traded? Okay, now on the Native American side, write down 2 to 5.5 million compared to your 388,000, 2 and 5.5 million indigenous North Americans were enslaved in the Americas between 1492 and 1880. This number is additional to the 12.5 million African slaves who were enslaved during the same time period. The practice of enslaving Native Americans involved disrupting their livelihood, and kinship network, and sometimes took various forms, according to Brown University. 5.5 million is crazy. Crazy. Linford Fisher estimates 2.5 to 5 million Native enslaved in the entire Americas. Even though records became more reliable in later colonial periods, Native Americans received little to no mention, and they were classed with African slaves with no distinction. How could they do that if they did not look alike? That is crazy work. Crazy. All right, let's go back. We're almost done. We're almost out of here. Pull up this video. All right, give me a second.
Which he said they're basically in the latter part of July. Gordillo and Quejo returned to Santo Domingo with 60 tall Indians, slaves. All right, so they returned. This is the same account. I guess it said 60 here, they said 70 over there, and glowing reports of the area around the Jordan River. All right, so these were the Chicori, maybe they were enslaving, the Chicori that you don't know about. This was the start of the Chicora legend, later embellished by Leon and the prolific writings of Martyr. They describe Chicora as utopian land that did not require military conquest and could easily become a new Andalusia when colonized. You hear that? In the fall of 1520, under their own rulers, and accompanied him. Remember the slave trader, Quejos. Among the colonists were a number of Negro slaves. Oh, okay, so we go from African slaves to black slaves. Now we got, in this count, or an original, a primary source actually, Negro slaves, all right? Doesn't say anything about African, Negro slaves, all right? And so what is this proving to us? Again, that so-called Negro or African slaves, or, just any people of dark skin, what you consider a Negro, were brought way before 1619. This is 1526, almost 100 years before. All right, 1526, we have accounts of Negro slaves being brought. How come they don't teach us this? Why are they always telling us 1619? All right, that's a lie. Didn't you see it's all a made-up lie? It is well to remember that if to Catholic Spain is due the first introduction of Negro slaves, all right, so the Spanish were the first to introduce so-called Negro slaves, not English, in 1619 into the territory of the United States. All right, and one more document here about this colony, and it says here a Spanish settlement in Carolina, 1526, by J.G. Johnson, M.A., University of Georgia. All right. So continuing, says it was not until June 1526 that Leon was ready to set out with his colonists. Considering numbers and equipment, it was a more formidable array than that which had already conquered Mexico, or that other which was shortly to overthrow the Inca in Peru. 7 vessels, 600 men and women, among whom were several slaves, and 83 horses made up the expedition. All right, so very important. All right, so we started out in the website remember, with they said African slaves, and then we went to the other book, it said black slaves. All right, and then we went to the other book, the settlements of the Spanish settlements in America, and it told us it was Negro slaves. All right, and now in this article, right, from the Georgia Historical Quarterly, it's just saying slaves. several slaves. All right, it doesn't say Negro, Black, Africans, just says slaves. It could be anybody. It could be indentured white servants, right? Could be any slave. But we know, right? We know that the Spanish were enslaving or making servants out of the Indians. Remember, this guy alone, A Leon, was given 400. Remember, we read that already. He was given 400.
And look, let me see. I'll pull it real quick for you. The slaves that they were transporting out of North America. Let's see. Early settlers transported Native Americans from the Americas to Europe. Oh, let me change my screen real quick. The Native Americans they were bringing out of America, they were taking them to Europe. They were taking them to Europe. They were taking Indians from the Americas, taking them right to Europe. Yes, early European settlers did transport Native Americans from the Americas to Europe. These Native Americans were brought to Europe as captives, slaves, or parts of diplomatic or trade missions, according to Oxford Bibliography. The practice of enslaving Native Americans was a significant aspect of the early colonial period, with the Native Americans being taken from their homeland and transported to Europe. How many of y'all knew this? They were snatching bodies from North America, taking them to Europe long before they was taking bodies from Africa, bringing them to the Americas. They was taking bodies from North America back over to Europe. Look, Europeans for various reasons, including labor, entertainment, and curiosity. Wonder what that means. Captives and enslaved. European sea captains, particularly in the 1600s, frequently seized Native Americans and transported them to Europe as slaves. Why don't you hear about this Atlantic slave trade? This is in the Atlantic also. This is also in the Atlantic Ocean. This is also a transatlantic slave trade. Why are they only showing you the one transatlantic slave trade? This is the Native American or American Indian slave trade. Why does the African slave trade get way more hype than this one right here? Christopher Columbus returned to Spain with captives in 1490. Christopher Columbus brought some Native Americans back with him as captives. And later, European sea captain brought Native Americans to Europe on a regular basis. The first Native Americans to visit England voluntarily was Montijo and Winchester. Okay, let's watch this. Why am I showing you this? What happened to King Montezuma? Montezuma II, the Aztec Empire, was held captive, placed in wherever it is right here, by the Spanish conquistador under Hernan Cortez. He died in the evening of June 30, 1520, while still a prisoner. While the exact cause of death is debated, he likely died from injuries sustained during the Aztec rebellion against the Spanish and subsequently stoning by his own people. Why am I showing you King Montezuma? What happened to him? This is King Montezuma. Uh-oh. King Montezuma. King Montezuma. King Montezuma. Dodge the hijack on some of the pictures. Let's try this right here. The Americas. Let's see if we can find that painting in here real quick. And then we go back to King Montezuma. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Dang it. That's not it. That's let me see if I can find it real quick. American. I should put like the original American. The original American. Dang nagget. No, I ain't gonna find it up here. Anywho, there's a picture. I'm gonna keep looking for it. There's a photograph of the original Americans. All the Americans, the original Americans. Yeah, I ain't gonna be able to find it like this. Anywho, Chief Montezuma. Who else? Chief Tamachichi. Chief Tamachichi. This is in Georgia. Chief Montezuma is Central America. Aztec. Showing the American nations that were here that they snatched up bodies from as well. Chief Tamachichi helped the colonists lay out roads, including the first one from Savannah to wherever this is. He also aided Overthorpe in mentoring, mentoring between Yamacraw and surrounding tribes in British colony. Who else? Let's see who else. Chief Tuscaloosa. There we go. And there's some mixed stories about Chief Tuscaloosa also. Some say he was just called Black Warrior because of whatever. But in honor of legendary Black Warrior, the great chief who had a fatal encounter with explorer Hernando de Soto. Cortez and de Soto. We'll get into who they are later in another date, but de Soto and Cortez, man, good Lord Almighty. Centuries before, somewhere in West Alabama, the settler named the place Tuscaloosa from the Choctaw word Tushka, meaning warrior, and Luska, meaning black. Very tall, well built. And that goes parallel with what they were saying earlier when I first came on, when they was describing the build of these indigenous Americans. Let's see what else. Right. Let's just try Google real quick and see what happens. Let's go to images. So this image right here was dealing with the earlier transatlantic slave trade in the 1600s. Do not confuse these photographs of slave ships and individuals on slaves. Do not confuse those photographs to be these people. Ain't they sad? You put a pink cotton, it showed niggas automatically. Don't confuse the people on that slave ship with these people. Do not confuse the people on the slave ship I just showed you as these people. These people are not those people. That was a different time period. Don't let them do this shit to you. Don't let them do this right here. Don't let them show you this right here and have you thinking that these are the Africans they just showed you in those slave ships. Do not do that to yourself. This is the third slave trade. This is the third one. The first one is the big one from Spain. The second one is the next one from Europe when they get involved. And this is going to be done within America. I guess I should have called this body snatchers, I think. The second Atlantic slave trade. I should have called it domestic. The term second Atlantic slave trade or second slavery refers to the renewed expansion and creation of new frontiers of slavery in the 19th century, 1800s, particularly in the U.S. South, Brazil, and Spanish Caribbean, mirroring the abolishing of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery itself in other parts of America. This period saw massive internal slave trade in the U.S., fueling the Cotton Revolution, and continued to be abruptly illegal importation of enslaved Africans into the area like Brazil, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. Slavery wasn't entirely abolished, but rather adapted, expanded into certain regions, particularly in areas where cotton became major crop. So the pictures I just showed you is not the same thing as the slave trade I just showed you with those Africans being forced down below. Do not let them put that in your head. This is also called the Second Middle Passage, where it's internal trade of people within North America. But see, they'll keep showing you these pictures right here. They'll keep showing you these photographs of these people right here to have you think that this is the slave trade that affected you the most, or the movies like 12 Years a Slave or Django. All those movies have nothing to do with this slave trade. This is the earlier Moorish slave trade that they show you to talk about with Christopher Columbus and so on and so forth. But then they show you pictures of Negroes out in the field picking cotton. This is not the same thing, y'all. It's not the same thing. Let's do this real quick, since I got a little bit of volume on my TikTok. And once again, if you're not following me on TikTok, definitely give me a follow on TikTok. It's called the Minister of Information. There's a couple other people over there also called Minister of Information, but mine is the Minister of Information. And I already said one day I'm just going to go over my TikTok.
While there is no evidence of a large-scale Moorish settlement in the early American colonies, historical records indicate that some Muslims, often referred to as Moors due to their North African and Arab heritage, did arrive in the Americas through the slave trade. Some historical accounts hold that Sir Francis Drake freed Moorish slaves from the Spanish and the Caribbean and took them to settle the early colonies of the Carolinas.
That movie, the picture the picture of that movie, that's called Amistad. If you haven't seen that movie, it's called Amistad. If you have seen the movie, great. That was the White Lion. That was the White Lion ship that we mentioned earlier, that those 20 or 30 so Africans were brought up to Hampton, Virginia. The movie Amistad was about that situation. And as you can see, or as you saw, that they were all of Moorish character. All of them. Head wraps in the whole nine.
A few historical accounts mention instances of Moorish slaves being present in early colonial settlements, including the Carolinas. Most Muslims who came to the Americas during the colonial period were brought as enslaved Africans, many of whom maintained their Islamic beliefs despite forced conversion attempts.
It says 1526 Spanish explorer brought 100 enslaved Africans into the area what is now called Georgia or South Carolina, where they established the first Spanish town in the United States. That's Guadalupe, we talked about a little bit earlier.
Moorish slaves from the Spanish settlements in the Caribbean were taken to settle the early colonies of the Carolinas.
The enslaved Africans revolted and vanished within weeks. The revolt was the first known instance of enslaved Africans rebelling in the Americas.
First slave rebellion. First slave revolt. That was the very first slave revolt in the Spanish colonies. After the revolt, they vanished.
Moors Muslim people of North African descent were present in the early American colonies, contributing to the development of various settlements, particularly in port cities, and often playing roles in trade and navigation. Despite facing discrimination and often having to conceal their identities.
While there is no evidence of a large-scale Moorish settlement in the early American colonies, historical...
Let's continue.
This guy knows too.
I got another one also in here that deals with the Moorish encounter, or the the colonial Moorish settlers, as they call it. Is it this one? I think I just did this one. Is it this one? I got so much shit on here, y'all. You gotta forgive me. This is cool right here too.
Mexico has a connection to the Moors through Spanish colonization, which introduced Moorish influence on Mexican food, architecture, and other aspects of culture. Mexico's Arab heritage can be traced back to the Moorish people who invaded Spain in the 700s and reigned over them for almost 100 years. Moros I Christians Valencian, Moros I Christians, literally in English Moors and Christians, activities which are celebrated in many towns and cities of Spain, mainly in the southern Valencian community. Mexico, Guatemala, Peru and Colombia also have festivals featuring Moors and Christians reenactments. The La Pila Fountain.
Did y'all know that? Did y'all know in Mexico as well as Spain they have? Well, we know they do something in Spain with it, right? But did y'all know in Mexico they have Moorish parades in Mexico? And this is part of the reason the brothers are saying that the brothers in Mexico are part of the days, the L's, the bays, and the days. I mean, let's just continue to listen. I'm sorry. Should be making sense to me sometimes. Like, okay, they make a little bit.
In Chiapa de Corzo, Chiapas, and the Morisco Kiosk in Colonia Santa Maria la Ribera are examples of Moorish architecture in Mexico.
That's a picture of King Montezuma right here. That's what I was trying to find. That's a picture of King Montezuma, who was a Moorish king, and what we call Aztec.
Moorish culture influenced Spanish culture and the European relationship with Islam. Moorish buildings have influenced architects around the world, and Moorish characters were included in European literature for centuries. Mexico.
So this was the point where I was kind of having at my hypothesis before I went in and examined, like, wow, this shit is crazy. How much of a connection and influence Moors had in Mexico, the Moors had with Columbus, the Moors had with the, what do you call it, Indica Terravena, and what happened there shortly after that. I got one more. Let's see.
Juan Garrido c. 15 was the first black person in what would become.
Juan Garrido was the first documented black person in what would become the United States. Juan Garrido. Let's look at Juan Garrido. Did y'all, man, you can't make this stuff up. Juan Garrido. Uh-oh. Here you go, right here. Juan Garrido. Juan Garrido was hold on. I want you guys to see this when I pull it up, because I'm not making this shit up. It's crazy. Juan Garrido, okay. First black. Let's see what it say first. Let's see what it say first. Yeah, right here. He was a black African Spanish conquistador. They're saying everything but fucking Moor. They're saying everything but Moor. He's a Moor. He was a Moor. Juan Garrido was a Moor. Okay? We're talking about the 1400s, 1500s, Spain. Juan Garrido was an Afro-Spaniard of Congo, original conquistador, known as the first documented Bantus person in what would become the United States. He was the first Negro person of African descent in what would become the United States, according to what the fuck they're saying, pretty much. He is the first known free African to arrive in North America. He is the first free African to arrive in North America. This is Juan Garrido. He participated in the Spanish conquest of Cuba and Diego, the expeditions to Florida, Ponce de Leon. By 1519, he joined Cortez forces. Now, Cortez is the one who ends up killing Montezuma. Now, remember that we just saw that Montezuma is off by Cortez. De Soto, Hernandez de Soto is prior to Cortez, but anyway, an invaded president. Cortez is prior to De Soto. Sorry, an invaded present-day Mexico. Participated in the siege of Chichen Itza, what it's called, Mexico City, where he was the first known farmer. He sold wheat in America. He continued to serve with the Spanish forces for more than 30 years, including expedition to Western Mexico in specific. He is considered the prime example of black conquistadors. And the black conquistadors were the fucking Moors. Although in reality, the presence of Africans and mulattoes in Hispanic ranks had already become a widespread occurrence after the first decade in the 16th century. What they're saying, a lot of these Moors was fucking these local native people and creating these mulattoes, or they also called them, let me show you what they called them also. Hold on. Let's learn about the history of the Ladinos. The Christianized blacks mentioned in the 16th century documents issued in Spain, La Española, and the rest of the Spanish Empire were known as Ladinos. And the term referred to generally the blacks who were familiar in general with the religion, culture, and language of Castile of Portugal. They were called Ladinos. Why am I harping on the word Ladino? Because I'm about to show you what Latino comes from. Uh-oh. I'm gonna let y'all soak that in for a second. These are the Ladinos. Go back to your T-chart. Under African/Moor, write down Ladino. Ladinos. On your T-chart, write that down, please. And if you just tapping and tuning in, listen, man, y'all know this is class. We're not here to entertain anybody at all. This is strictly a classroom setting, of which I cannot find the freaking. Oh, I know where it is. It's over here. Give me 1 second, family. Let me go over here because I know my bro got it over here somewhere. Dang it. Maybe he don't. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought Carl might have a flyer. Anyway, and Carl won't get me for not having the flyer. Forgive me, brother. I ain't got the flyer on me. I do have an event coming up for Juneteenth in Atlanta. Go to crom.tv/info for the tickets. This is kind of the lecture style I'll be doing on a whiteboard in person, though. It's a lot easier for me to teach in person than teach online. As you guys see, I don't really go live that often by myself, but hey, whatever, right? So check that out for sure. Let's see if I got the ticker up here. Do not have the ticker. I apologize, family. I was not prepared. I just thought about it. But anyway, these are called Ladinos. Watch this. Let's see if we can get out of Skynet. Oh, no. Ladinos and Latinos are not the same. While the word Ladinos is derived from Spanish and related to Latino, related to the Latinos. Okay, that's what it is. Ladinos in Central America refer to mestizo people of mixed Spanish and indigenous descent. Now, dodge the hijack. When they say mixed Spanish and descent, they're talking about Moors, the dark-skinned Ladinos. These people are made up by Ladinos and the indigenous people. The Latinos are actually made up from, I don't know. We'll look that up in a second because I'm curious now. Ladino, Central America term referred to individuals in Central America who are mixed Spanish indigenous ancestry. They are often considered part of Meso population. Encompasses individuals from Latin America, which includes Central America and South America and the Caribbean. It can refer to people of various racial backgrounds, including those identified as white, black, and indigenous or Asian. That's Latino. But Ladinos are for a specific group. Ah, okay, got it. So Latinos are more ambiguous to the word. Like Latinos for specific people. Let's see what happens when we do this right here. I'm just putting in shit now because I'm curious. No, Ladinos are not Moors. While both terms are sometimes associated with the Iberian Peninsula, they refer to different groups of people. The term Moor is used by Christian Europe to refer to Muslims. Ladinos, the context of America, refer to free Africans who were accustomed to the Iberian. What the hell are y'all saying? While they're saying that Ladinos are not Moors, let's read this one more time real slow. The term Moor was used by Christian Europeans to refer to the Muslim population of North Africa in the Iberian Peninsula, Al-Andalus, during the Middle Ages. They were a diverse group of people with various origins, including Arabs, Berbers, and local population. Local population of Spain. Moors were also of the local population of Spain, not just from Arabia or the Berber coast, but also already just been there. Ladinos, in the context of America, Ladinos refer to free Africans who were accustomed to the Iberian Peninsula, Spanish and Portugal culture. They often played roles as translators in interpreting, aiding communication between indigenous people and European colonizers. In Central America, Ladino also refer to the people of mixed Spanish and indigenous descent. In the context of the Americas, Ladino refer to free Africans who were Moors. There were no Africans known. There was just, where were you from? Who are you? Were accustomed. Now, they were just Africans accustomed to the Iberian customs and traditions. They weren't actually Moors. Like, they just maybe like looked like them and dressed like them and followed the same situation, but they were not actually them, though. Come on, man. Fuck out of here. Dr. Hijack, brothers and sisters. The term Moor is primarily historically referred to the group of Muslims, while Ladino has specific meaning in different contexts, including Americans in Central America. In summary, Ladinos are free Africans who were accustomed to the Iberian culture, and Moors are a Muslim population of North Africa and Iberian Peninsula during the Middle Ages. They are a distinct group with different origins and historical contexts. This is what Skynet says. All right. Are there any? Oh, hold on. I just did the math for the plantation and recently burnt down. And yeah, I said 380 slaves and 6,000 acres. I just did the math for the plantation that recently burnt down. Wow. That's crazy. During the Civil War, a pound of cotton was 125. Slaves were required to pick over 200 pounds a day. During the Civil War, with 380 slave masters getting over 95,000. God dang! $95,000 a day is crazy in the 18 anythings. Jeez, man. Conversos are Ladinos. Conversos. Let's look that up, brother. Hold on, make sure I'm spelling this correctly because I'm jacking this up. Versos, okay, you're right. Uh-oh. There it is. Appreciate you, brother. There it is. Praise Allah. Look at the brother. Latinos are Asian. And yes. You're absolutely right. Conversos and Ladinos are related to history as Sephardic Jews. I said in the beginning, these Sephardic Jews and these Muslims, they call them in Spain, they were all the same people. Not the same thing, but like literally like Moors were both Jewish and Muslims. Both of them at the same time. Definition: converso, Spanish for converted, refers to Jews in Spain and Portugal converted to Catholicism, particularly during the 14th to 15th century. Motivation: the conversions were often forced and made under pressure due to the prosecution of the Spanish Inquisition. Many conversos secretly continued to practice Judaism, becoming known as crypto-Jews, or Marranos. Conversos and their descendants faced suspicious and discrimination in the Spanish Inquisition, effectively investigating them to signs of secret Jewish practices. Ladinos were also known as Judo-Spanish or Judismo, is a language derived from the Old Castile Spanish. It developed after the expulsion of the Jews in Spain in 1492 As Sephardic Jews carried their language to different parts of the world, particularly to Ottoman Empire, Jews, Ottoman Empire, Moors. We're gonna see the Moors Science Temple talk about the Ottoman Empire. Preservation, Ladino, many features in medieval Spanish, along with influences from Hebrew to Amharic, Aramaic, and other languages spoken in the diaspora. Cultural, Ladino became as important part of Sephardic Jewish culture with a rich tradition of literature, music, and folklore. Conversos and the original Ladinos speakers, while not all Ladinos were descendants of conversos. The expulsion of Jews from Spain, which forced many into conversion, led to the geographical diaspora of Jews and contributed to the development and the spread of Ladino. And we can go on and on like Erykah Badu. Brother, thank you. That was a great assist. You came through in the clutch. I definitely appreciate that. That was crazy work. So listen, man, definitely tap in for this event we got coming up Juneteenth. Give Crum a shout. You have to charge to the head, not to the heart, family. I do not have the flyer up here. Klutz, man, I feel so crazy. But yeah, tap in with your boy, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in with me, riding the whole time with me, all of y'all. Be sure to share this shit, man. Share it. Follow if you're not following my channel right now. Follow my channel if you're not following me on TikTok. Give me a follow on TikTok at the Minister of Information over on TikTok. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, man. Just tap it. Let's tap all the way in. Big tapping in. And hey, look, remember, if you got a dope beat, a dope track, hey man, send it over to me. Let me get my email up real quick. Where's my email? Bang, 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 bang. Right here. Shoot me an email if you got beats. I'll definitely, bump some tracks over this thing. We got a crazy reach, a crazy following, so definitely send your beats in. Make sure the beats are cleared though. Don't send no crazy stuff in. Just beats. And I guess out of this whole thing, man, just remember, man, like everybody's not from Africa.
Mandinka. What food stuff that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. And I ain't no African.
And I ain't no African. She went down the whole goddamn bloodline on his ass, boy. She said my great-great-great-granddad is from here. And this was supposedly in the movie Roots. This is in the 1800s, okay? This is not 16, 15, nothing. This is 1800s, okay? So I get twisted. In other news, you guys keeping up with Diddy. It looks like Diddy might just escape the booty man.
You will see a bottle of this man on your bed. Baby oil.
How much baby oil does this dude have, man? Good Lord. Cassie said he had a whole pool of baby oil and she had to climb in it. Crazy work, man. But anyway, man, I'm getting up out of here. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. Be sure to share this. If you're not already following, be sure to give me a follow over on Instagram, the Minister Informing, on TikTok at the Minister of Information, and over on YouTube, same thing as the Minister of Information, man. Thank y'all so much for tapping in, man. Appreciate y'all, boy. I got to get out of here. Peace.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.